Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes on our monthly live demo and peer Q&A session. We've got a couple of great partners with us today. We're going to go through a couple of demonstrations of Nodeware, how Nodeware is integrated into ThreatAdvice, and how Redstor and us are all working together to help support not only MSPs, but the downstream clients that they are working with. So we'll get started in just a minute. We're just waiting on a few more people to attend. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them in the question box or the chat box, and we will get to those right away. We're just waiting for a few of your colleagues to log in, and then we'll get started. Thanks so much.
How many people are we expecting?
Well, we're live, but well, there should be dozens. Hopefully, we're expecting.
Yeah, and I would expect probably 40 to 50, and then a whole group of them watching the YouTube rebroadcast.
Sure.
So if you're on already, invite your friends, colleagues. Anybody listening in?
Countrymen.
We're live. So let's.
So let's go ahead and get started. I want to thank everybody for attending today's live demo and peer Q&A session. Just to refresh everybody's memory, we'll go to the next slide. Just so you know, we put this in place at the request of the Nodeware Advisory Council, specifically to provide an opportunity to see Nodeware, to get a demonstration, to hear from some of our partners on some of the issues specifically related to Nodeware. As you know, this is separate and distinct from the cybersecurity thought leadership webinar series we do, which is more of a public service announcement on, you know, what activities are taking place specifically. How do you help small business leaders do a few things a little bit better? How do you help mid-sized companies that are either struggling with to get started with cyber hygiene, with all the cyber attacks coming their way, or with the increased in compliance requirements? How can they begin to do a better job both educating their employees around cyber issues, as well as educating their board members, their investors, their advisors, the other executives and employees of the organization? As always, if you have a guest speaker that you'd like to see us bring on board, please let us know. We run these sessions monthly. If you'd like a proof of concept, if you'd like our advanced APIs, if you'd like to do a trial, you know, please let us know that as well, and we will work with you specifically on that. If we can go to the next page. Just to give you an example of some of the upcoming sessions we have coming up under the Cybersecurity Thought Leadership webinar series, we have Bradford Wilkie, the former senior advisor at CISA, who just joined our Nodeware Advisory Council. He is going to come on board in July 21st to talk about some of the U.S. government resources to help cybersecurity, some of the things that CISA is doing, some of the essentials programs as well. And then we have a big month in August where Steve Mancini is actually going to come on board from CISA, talk about some of the things that they are doing on a go-forward basis. They've got some exciting announcements on some things they're making as it relates to Cybersecurity Awareness Month coming up in October. And then we're doing a number of things with the National Cybersecurity Center in Colorado. Mickey Cockrell will be on board talking about some of the things they're doing with Zero Trust as it relates to the ISACs they support and the small and mid-sized businesses that they are helping out. They've got an exciting perspective on Zero Trust. We're doing some things around how Nodeware's continuous scanning fits into the Zero Trust model and definition. And as well, if you're on your way to Zero Trust as a mid-sized enterprise or as a large organization, why a monthly scan, a Sunday night scan, or a quarterly scan won't meet the Zero Trust requirements. And you'll have to go to a continuous scanning during normal business hours in order to provide some of the initial things you need for Zero Trust from a capability standpoint. And then as always, we will be having a session next month on July 28th. Eric Pinto from SOC Soder will be joining us talking about some of the things that SOC Soder is providing to our MSPs, our MSSP partners, in the way of their capabilities, all about enhancing the MSP experience, improving their productivity, their capabilities, and their effectiveness, not only to support the clients they have, but on an ongoing basis, as more and more small and mid-sized businesses need assistance. Some of the things that StockSoda is doing to help those MSPs be better, be more successful, be ready to support them. So if we go to the next slide. So before we get started today, I want to turn this over to Frank Raimondi. Frank is our Vice President of Channels, and will here today, give us a short presentation and demonstration of Nodeware, and then we will introduce the other two members of our guests today, Matt and Riaan, to talk specifically about some of the things that ThreatAdvice is doing to integrate Nodeware to help an MSP or MSSP with a full solution stack that ThreatAdvice has to offer, and to really help them get started, once again, helping them go where they want to get to support the clients. And Riaan will be talking specifically about some of the things that Redstor is doing to help MSPs, once again, in building and broadening what we're putting together for the segment of the marketplace. Before we get started on the demo, I also want to remind everybody, last week we announced our integration with Gradient. So if you're using the Gradient billing system, you can take advantage of the output from Nodeware into that billing system. So from a very productive standpoint and an efficiency standpoint, you can start billing your customers, getting your billing squared away. Once again, just another area where we're working with our partners, Security Studio, ThreatAdvice, StockSoda, SciAssurance, and others, to fully integrate to make the MSP experience as simple and straightforward as possible, and give them the ability to scale with their customers. The other thing that I'll add is we announced a program with Seven Figure MSP. So if you're a member of Seven Figure MSP, or you're a member of ASCII, it gives you an opportunity to get a special promotional price on Nodeware as a member of each one of those organizations. So feel free to reach out to those two organizations, or go to nodeware.com, and we'll be happy to get you connected as well. So with that, Frank, let me turn it over to you to begin the demonstration. And as always, please submit your questions, and we will make sure we get to all of your questions today, and they'll be in the recording for the YouTube rebroadcast.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Stuart, and thank you to Matthew and Riaan as well. So I'm going to, I wanted to just kind of summarize quickly what Nodeware is, and then I'll demo a little bit. So right there, well, we're kind of making a distinction. It's a vulnerability program. In past, and with other tools out there that do vulnerability management, they're kind of a one-time hit, or they're a scheduled, weekend, or when the network's not being really used, kind of program, or they don't have full access to agents. And so what we've brought is that real-time scanning, normal business hours, no need to schedule anything. It's just running continuously, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that means. But what we think from an MSP opportunity is a chance either to start a cyber hygiene program for your customers, or an enhancement to what you're doing to provide even more current and accurate data and more timely data. So we'll talk a little bit more about some of the free trials and other things that are available for you. But really, when it comes down to it, if you're able to ask your customers kind of three simple questions, can you see devices as they connect to the network? Are able to identify security gaps in that network? And do you have any skilled staff to manage the risk that you know is coming, or know is there? So when you get around to those three questions, and if it's a no to any one of those, and particularly all three of them, then Nodeware and now looking at ThreatAdvice is a really good opportunity to add to your security services. So just want to kind of reiterate that. Let me share my screen here, do the right, pick the right screen. You able to see that, everybody? Yep, good. Okay, so this is the Nodeware platform. This is what you as an MSP would be seeing as a standalone, or when you're using it standalone. And again, we'll transfer over to Matthew to show how they've integrated the data and the tools. But so you have the option, right, of using this directly as an MSP with just the Nodeware product, and then again, we've got different integration modules such as ThreatAdvice. But if you look at here, this is where you kind of start, right? You can see your average score as an MSP for all your customers and all their assets. And you have, you have 3 customers, so it's multi-tenant variety. Your licensing blocks of 50, and you can spread them amongst your customers. So you could have one at 33, one at 10, and one at 7. I think we make up to 50. Whatever your split is, you can manage them, the subscriptions to your customers, and based on their counts. We're collecting this data via network sensors, virtual sensors, as well as agents. So we have agents for Mac, for Windows, and for some Linux endpoints. And then we also, the sensors, we have a Windows sensor, a VMware, and a vSphere sensor that you can deploy on any network device on the network, and it goes and does its magic automatically and updates itself automatically. There's no, once it's up and running, the MSP, you don't have to do any sort of maneuvering with that software. It's automatically updating. We do every minute there's a scan for assets, and that enables us to send alerts if a new asset is found when it's come onto the network. We also fingerprint every 3 to 5 minutes, and then once a day, every asset is rescanned for its vulnerability scoring. So you'll see when we get into the specific numbers of the assets, you can see that's been updated. The oldest data you're going to have is 24 hours. So at any given point, you can come in and look at the tool, look at your customers, and see the evaluations of what's going on there. Let's go through. We'll just look at an example of a customer here. You can see the individual assets that are found. So there's 10 assets on this particular network. You can see there's a mixture of routers, of servers, of endpoint clients, and all of these are individually found by the IP address, the MAC address, and also the fingerprint. So if we look to, let's just pick this one at 781, kind of sounds like it's a pretty risky score. There's some high vulnerabilities there. There's some medium ones, good number of them, and some other information and low risk. If we go into, let's just look at this medium, what's going on here. We provide a description of the problem. We provide some recommendations and some other tools, some other scripting that you might want, and some additional resources that you as the MSP or your IT shop, if you're co-managing, can go in and look and see that information. If you wanted to, let's say you're doing some work on that particular device, and you want to check your work, you can do a rescan, and it'll do it within 10-15 minutes. You'll have that device fully rescanned and with an updated number, so you can make sure that you've done what you intended to do. In the assets, the sensors will capture every asset. It's found, every IP address, IP cameras, VoIP phones, printers, etc. iPhones and Androids that connect to the network. We identify them and put them in the mix. The agents then will again be put on the system so that they're always continuously available, whether they're on the network or not. Let me see what else. Oh, the other thing I wanted to call it is these tags. So some of these are automatic, but you can also create a specific tag. So if you come in and let's say you've got 1,000 devices, but you only want to look at servers, you click on that and you can look at your servers scores. If you needed to look at your workstations across your full customer base, you can select that and go from there. We talked about support. Let me just go on to reports. We provide, there's 7 different reports that you can download. You can schedule them you want every report on a Monday, or you want end of the month, you want an executive summary report, a 2-page report, you can provide that. You can select which report you might want when you want it, again, on demand or by customer. And then, like the example, I just did this a little while ago, download the report, you can pull up the executive summary, and this is pretty much white labeled, so if you want to adjust it or provide your logo on there or print it out when you want it and bring it to your customer on a QBR, you have that access and that information easily available. And we also have some RESTful APIs if you want to, integrate in like ThreatAdvice has done, or if you have some other tools or other PSAs that are beyond what Gradient provides for us, or provides for you, then you have the ability to do that. The last thing I'll just hint or remember or notice that I didn't mention earlier, we have sensors for on the network, agents for clients, but you can also put you can include an external website into your mix as an asset. So if you wanted to view a particular external site, you can find it. You can go and get again, an external. You can get the data on that and just know that you're keeping that one safe as well. So I think that's kind of the quick and dirty. I probably missed a couple things, but again, I'll just reiterate that the standalone in our model, available from Synnex today and Teleris, we sell in blocks of 50 assets, and the annual, if you buy it up front, pay it up front, the annual cost is about $320 for that block for a year, or about 55 cents per asset per month when it breaks down to that point. And then the price tiers go down from there. But I'll finish my sharing, and let me go back to let me introduce Matt, the VP Channel Development at ThreatAdvice, who's been a large and integrated partner with us and kind of started from nowhere and been just outpacing everybody in our world. So Matt, why don't you show us a little bit how, from what you've seen from the Nodeware as a standalone, what you've done with it and sort of enabled an MSP to go beyond the data that we've provided. Oop, Matt, you're muted, Matt.
Hey everyone, glad to have you here.
Much better.
I'm going to do a quick high-level overview of how we've integrated Nodeware and what our platform does. Our platform is based on 4 pillars: assess, manage, teach, and protect. And the assess part is huge because it's our integration with Nodeware. So I'm not going to show you everything because Frank just did. But what we've done, we've integrated it into our system and allowed you to go ahead and within our system, deploy those sensors and those agents and come in here and have your scores, look at the number of assets, come down here, look at individual assets, be able to get information on each one of them like Frank showed, and then be able to dig into the details. One of the other things you can do is you can add a corrective action. What this is allowed to do is the people in your staff that you add into here, you can pick someone, you can make a note that says, please look into this, or any other information you may have, and you could say save, and they're going to get an email immediately to tell them that they need to jump in and they need to look at it. So that's really our Nodewise integration. Everything Frank showed you, our platform will do with that integration and provide you with all of that information in one spot. Now, what we bring to the table beyond that is after assess, we have manage. What manage does is it brings in all the major SIEM tools as well as endpoint protection tools into one spot. So like we run SentinelOne, Beachhead, and Cisco, Meraki, and Purge. So you can see here, we've got a dashboard on everything going on with SentinelOne. If for some reason you see something that needs to be addressed, click down, it'll take you right into your portal. The idea is to provide you a single pane of glass where you can see everything that's going on. One of the other cool things is that if we are not integrated with your current software, then all you have to do is if they have an open API, be willing to spend about 60 minutes with us, telling us what that dashboard needs to look like for it to be useful to you, and we'll go ahead and get that taken care of. Policies and procedures, we have about 65. We also let you add your own. And what's great about this is everything is digitally signed and stored for compliance purposes and follow-up later. Here's your corrective actions report. You can pull this up and export it at any time. Shows the ones that are still open, and it shows the ones that have been resolved. You can click in here and see any notes they may have put in here. One other thing I'd like to mention is we are also working with Gradient right now. So anything where you see vulnerabilities and information on the Nodeware piece, you're going to be able to take those and you're going to be able to pick from, I want all critical vulnerabilities, or I want these specific ones to create a ticket in any PSA system that you desire. So you're going to have that ability to make tickets from those vulnerabilities instead of just corrective action. So you can jump on those and have a record of it in your ticketing system as to what was done and who took care of that. When I come into Learn IT, what we've got is we've got a full security awareness training platform. And I know everybody and their brother says they have this. Well, a couple things that we did differently that I really like. First thing is we've set this up where you can set it up however you desire. Our company sets it up into semesters. So you have X amount of training you need to do by X date in a semester. You can set it up where you have one training curriculum for every one of your accounts, cut and paste. You can set it up where you have different training curriculums for each of your accounts. And you can have it set up a year in advance. You can have it set up in quarter increments. However you want to use it, you're able to use it. If I come in here and click down, you're going to see the pieces that are in this particular semester. What's nice about it is all of ours are animated. Now, they're not cartoons, but they're animated. They're not someone just sitting there going through PowerPoint slides or a hand drawing things out. Next thing is every one of them is under 5 minutes. We're trying to provide information while also keeping attention and making it as fun as possible for someone to actually learn something, not just give them as much information as humanly possible and have them possibly not get anything out of it because they've tuned it out. Most of our trainings are 3 minutes and 30 seconds on average. The other thing is if you come in here and you complete your training, you start a quiz, there you go. There's 5 questions. They're in order of what the video has gone through. I've heard a lot of times people say, hey, you're trying to trick me. If they watch the video, they're going to get 100. If they don't watch the video, can't be responsible for that. Coming back into education, we also have in the dashboard several reports. One of them is employee risk levels. So you can export this for compliance purposes, but like here, you can see that one of the people, Tony Atkins, he's taken 48 quizzes, but he's failed 1 out of 2 phishing campaigns that we've sent him, and 8 out of 12 policies he hasn't acknowledged yet. Now, what's nice for you is this is reporting that you can provide for yourself or your client. However, they're going to get bugged regularly that you need to take this training. You need to go ahead and sign this policy and procedure. They're going to get reminded a couple times a week on a regular basis. However, if you want to send out a personal notification, you can do so right here, or you could send it out to all of these people right there. If I come back into phishing, you can look here. We've got our phishing campaign set up. In this particular case, we've got this one set up for slow delivery. It's going to all company users and it's random. So what that means is slow delivery is that only 20% of the users that are in that particular phishing campaign are going to get a particular phish on a particular day over a 5-day period. We're doing our best to make sure the same people sitting next to each other don't get the same phishing email. You come back in here, you can see that we've got a template library. We've got about 70 of them. We've got all the normal ones, right? Amazon, Pay, Microsoft, Google, and you can see that we've done them realistically as humanly possible in order to make it realistic. We do it on 2 levels. One is, did they click on the link? 2 is, did they try to fill in information? One of the things we've decided to do is rather than making 500 phishing campaigns just for the heck of it and using our ideas, we're asking our clients to tell us the phishing campaigns they want. Because if you come up with 2 that you want, then there's a good idea that the other people are going to want that also. What we do is we take your idea, we put it together, and we knock it out in usually 3 to 5 days to make sure that that's in there, and we put it in the library available to everybody, unless it's something very specific to you, at which point we make it available to you only. You come down here to reward it. What rewarded is everybody talks about gamification. Well, we've actually truly gamified it. And what I mean by that is there are weekly quizzes and trivia that you can take, and you're going to earn coins for that. But also what's going to happen is every time you pass one of your trainings, you're going to get coins. Every time you report a phish using the Outlook plugin, you're going to get coins. Matthew, that's great, but how does that truly gamify it? Well, not only do you get badges, but if you come in here, there's going to be a marketplace. This is ours internally. What we're doing is we're setting up 6 tiles, and you're going to be able to get with your customers and decide what are a number of coins worth? What is the reward? In our case, 2,500 coins, $25 gift card for Starbucks. You can decide on anything you want, an extra day off, particular kind of gift card, an extra volunteer day. Doesn't matter, be as creative as you want. Takes literally 5 minutes to set up. Now, what happens is when one of their employees comes in here and redeems, whoever you put an email address in for, they're going to get an email once a week, says this person has redeemed this particular thing, and they're going to be able to go ahead and fulfill it without you having to be involved any further. Protect IT is just like Nodeware, our partnership with Cysurance. What Cysurance has helped us put together is a breach protection warranty. What this is it's not cyber liability insurance. They still need that for reputational damage, fines, all that stuff. What this is for the MSP. What it's designed to do is if you implement, there are 8 things. One of them is continuous vulnerability scanning. One of them is multi-factor authentication. So a lot of the stuff you're probably doing already, but there are 8 things. Once you implement those things, if your client is ever breached, then you have up to $500,000 worth of coverage to get them back technologically where they were before the breach. So again, it doesn't replace cyber liability insurance. It's a warranty, but it is backed by large reinsurers, not us, that have billions of dollars. A couple good things about it. One, if they do have insurance, you don't have to wait for them to settle their claim to get paid. 2, if they don't, you know you're going to get paid for the work that you have to do. A lot of our MSP clients, because your cost is only $35 a month per client, are actually bearing it in their security stack and just telling the customer they warranty their security stack for up to $500,000. Again, because it's not regulated the same way as insurance, you can take that $35 and mark it up to whatever you want if you decide you want to do that. That's kind of the ThreatAdvice platform in a nutshell. Again, we're designed to assess using the Nodeware tools, manage, teach, and protect, bringing both the human and the technological into one place that allows you to truly see your customer's cybersecurity posture and be able to act on things that need to be acted on. Back to you.
All right, yeah, no, that's a great value add play there, Matthew. So thanks for sharing that. Stuart, back to you, or any questions you might have before we move on to Riaan?
Well, I think just, Matt, maybe one question is just at a little bit higher level, could you talk about how your solution stack helps an MSP that's been traditionally kind of IT oriented very quickly, rapidly mature to be, an effective MSSP that can support a broad set of clients?
Sure, I appreciate that question. So what this platform is designed to do is to make you the vCISO. It's designed to give you a ton of information that will allow you to sit down with your customer and show, not tell, what's actually going on with their environment and the things that you're taking care of or things that need to be taken care of that they're not letting you deal with on a regular basis. And between the human and the technological, it's showing that you have a complete service that covers all of their needs. And all of those dashboards I show you can be shared by putting in management credentials for the customer, and their CEO, or wherever you want, can actually look at what's going on and see all the work that you're doing and the fact that you're keeping them safe on a regular basis. So basically, it ups their ability to not only see information, but to assess and remediate, increase MRR, and show that they're a subject matter expert when it comes to the overall security posture of their clients.
That sounds great. I mean, once again, it is, it fits completely with not only our partnership with ThreatAdvice, but our partnership with all of our partners on the integration side, on all the things we're trying to do to help simplify, once again, make more productive and more efficient and more effective all these MSPs, with all the different things that we have to offer. Riaan, before we get to you specifically, could you talk a little bit about kind of some of the things that you're doing to help these MSPs and MSSPs with the issues they face?
Find the unmute button. Hi, guys. So Redstor is a backup and disaster recovery company really aimed at protecting customers' data wherever it is. So in the case of data breach, data loss, a couple of things come to mind where you might want to get the data back very quickly without having to provision any on-prem storage or anything like that. What Redstor really does is unify customer experience for backup from an MSP perspective. That means visibility into data, recoverability of data from a single platform, from a single web-based console, moving away from multiple logins, remembering what they are, and simplifying that entire process. So for us, really, data backup and recovery should be simple. It should be something that does what it says, and that's how we enable the channel to really get to the work that they should be doing. And backup is really unified and made a lot easier than it traditionally was.
Yeah, hey, Stuart, before Riaan, I think you're going to show a little platform scene. Maybe just both Matthew and Riaan, if you again, cost is always a question that comes up, and maybe you don't want to be specific too much, but just kind of how your pricing model works. And Matthew, if you want to start just based on per user play, or is there modules that they can? Is it all or nothing kind of thing? Beck, you're muted again.
I'm so bad at this. So it's all or nothing from buying the platform. Everything is included with the exception of the breach protection warranty. However, we've set it up where you can turn pieces on and off. So if you want to buy it and use the assessment tools, and for some reason you're using someone else for security awareness training right now, and you don't want to implement that at this moment, you can do a checkbox where that does not get implemented at this point in time. However, you're going to want to use it because it's based on per user, per seat. And what happens is, as you roll it out across your entire enterprise, not per customer, the pricing comes down. So the most you would ever pay with a 1-year agreement for everything we just discussed is $3.25 per user per month. As you add more people, it continues to go down and down and down. So as you're using this tool, you're able to increase your MRR just by adding more people to the platform.
Right. And then Riaan, or maybe you can just discuss it as you go through. So Riaan, are you going to share a little bit on the screen?
Yeah, I'll share in a second. Just from a Redstor pricing perspective, we've simplified our pricing model to sort of fall in line with what customers are used to when it comes to the specific products that they protect. In essence, what we mean by that is 365 protection, as an example, would be price per user, whereas machine protection would be based on the data that they actually protect for the machine. I am going to start sharing my screen in a second. Hopefully you guys can see all of it. You guys see the screen yet?
Yep, got it.
Fantastic. All right, so what we're looking at here is really Redstor's web-based interface. We call it our Red app, but what it is a single unified web-based console for backing up customer data, but also internal data for MSPs. Now, we protect things like Amazon Elastic Kubernetes services, Azure from both a Kubernetes as well as a machine protection perspective, Google Workspace, all the business critical data sitting inside Workspace, machines. So machines typically would be on-prem, server workloads or even desktops running Windows, Linux, or Mac. We'd be able to protect those using our machines product. Microsoft 365 protects Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams. Salesforce, obviously any sales-related data sitting inside Salesforce, and Xero. Now we are introducing an additional connector to QuickBooks Online, and really the point is to protect customers' data no matter where that data lives. Now, any organization today is in somewhat of a hybrid situation, whether that just means they have some workloads on-prem, a server, and the rest of their data in 365. And really the problematic thing traditionally was backing all of that up to a single place. Now, Redstor provides the storage. It is cloud-based, and we keep 2 copies of customer data at all times, encrypted at rest and in transit. Look, Matthew, at least they found the unmute button, right? Perfect. So what you see here is a couple of things. Really, we have protection for all of these platforms, but we also include suspicious file scanning. So this is really our AI machine learning model that is detecting inside the backup any potentially malicious code. What this will prevent is recoveries that already contain bad data. Now, when you look at zero-day threats, oftentimes protection providers, they'll detect the threat inside of your production systems, but at the time of recovery, you end up in the same state that you were in prior to the actual threat happening. So if you think about things like ransomware, malware, when we do a recovery, we protect the customer at the time of recovery, making sure we do not put that bad data back into a production system. When it comes to sensitive files, which you see right here, that is data tagging, and that is identifying across the user or across the customer's base where they have potentially sensitive content contained in the backup. Now, potentially sensitive content could be personally identifiable information of their customers, customers, but really providing a unified view of data management from a single console. Now, while breadth of coverage is very important to Redstor and making sure we're able to protect all of the data, an additional portion to this is the simplification of setting up backup. So what we are able to do is provision customers inside the same web application from a customer perspective, give them the ability to add additional backup products through a single click. So that would be adding any of the additional products you see here. Once that's created, it takes about a minute to set up each one of these products. So getting down to the actual business of backup and doing that very quickly. After that, once the data is protected, specifically when it comes to cloud data providers or cloud backup providers like Redstor, the big issue always is how do I get the data back and how do I get it back in a timeless fashion? Now, what we have is our instant data product, which I'd like to show you quickly. Now, instant data refers to the ability to stream data on demand, and that is across any of the protected platforms when you think about file level data, where you might need to restore very large data sets back on-prem. And in essence, what Redstor allows you to do is from a permanent file recovery perspective, stream all of the data back to your location. What that means is even though we're doing the recovery in the background, the customer is waiting for that data to become local, we're able to access it immediately. What this means is the customer is able to start working immediately. They don't have to wait for the recovery to finish. Whatever is being accessed will be prioritized for recovery. So the waiting time for a customer to get back up and running is taken from potentially hours or days while you wait for a download to finish for a recovery to just a couple of seconds or a couple of clicks. That really is where the cloud backup becomes a cloud recovery without the pain of having to wait for it.
So
other than that, Redstor is yes, of course, Frank. Yes.
No, I was just gonna say if you were kind of finished there, I was gonna say with Nodeware, right? Our uniqueness is the continuous sort of real-time scanning that normal business hours. You're kind of in that same boat from a recovery standpoint. It's real-time access effectively to if something does go wrong. Is that or is there another sort of key differentiator? I mean, there's clearly lots of different backup disaster recovery products out there. You guys are kind of making some headway with something unique. Maybe you could just clarify that a little bit further on, what's enabling you to stand out and gain customers today.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of real differentiators for Redstor, a single pane of glass when it comes to backup, no matter the data, where it lives. The fast recoverability of that data through instant data, very key for us, but also manageability from an MSP perspective. Having one place to look at your customer's data, manage the actual backups, also provisioning backup, instead of having, what you would in the past have a physical on-prem device that would become another additional point of failure. You're backing up to cloud and you're doing that, number one, in a fast way, but also in a recoverable way that will meet your customers' requirements.
Great. And then just to reiterate again on the pricing model, is it per user, per bit, per combination?
Yeah, it's a combination. Obviously, it depends on the type of data that you're protecting. If you look at 365 or Google Workspace data, that's specifically billed per user. Obviously, that's the model that they're most used to paying for consuming the service, so that falls in line with the customer expectation. When it comes to work on machines, so anything being backed up using the agent for Windows, Linux, and Mac, those are billed for the data actually being protected. So currently there's no cost for an agent. It's purely based on how much data am I protecting and inside our platform. Now that includes the storage, and it also includes the 2 geographically redundant copies. Should there be a service unavailability in our primary data center, we always have a backup data center available to service our customers.
Hey, Frank, so I got 3 questions that came in through LinkedIn just a few seconds ago. And I just want to remind everybody, if you could put any questions you have in the question box or the chat box through GoToWebinar, that would be great. But let's get to these 3 questions, one of which was specifically, do we support and do we have discount for nonprofits? And we do have a nonprofit program. We have a partnership with one of our MSP partners, focuses specifically on nonprofits. So we're happy to get you connected with them. So if you want to reach out to us, we will be happy to get that connection for you. The second one, Matt, was directed more at you guys about if I'm not ready to go with the full ThreatAdvice stack, how do I get started in cyber hygiene from where I'm at today?
Sure. I mean, from a cyber hygiene standpoint, just remember a couple of things that you need to do, whether it's our stack or anybody else's, it doesn't matter, is you need to be able to look at one of your customers' networks and understand what the problems are and what's going on there. You need to then be able to remediate those things and be able to, on an ongoing basis, make sure that you can keep up with those things to make sure they're constantly being looked at and managed so it doesn't go back to the way it was. As far as a security stack goes, assessments, endpoint protection, backup and recovery, I mean, security awareness training, those are some of the most critical pieces. And the reason I bring up security awareness training is not because we do it, but if you're not dealing with the human aspect of an account, then everything you're doing could be broken in 3 seconds flat. Think of it this way. If I have little kids and I put biometrics and 3 padlocks on my front door, if they run up and they open the door, there is nothing any of that technology is going to do. So you need to make sure you're also taking into effect the human and the technological at the same time. And for me, to have a complete security stack. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And Matt, maybe you could just sort of clarify again, just sort of what you see, what Nodeware, kind of made as an attraction into your solution, right? You had other options there, but what stood us out for your inclusion?
Sure. The assess part of our stack is incredibly important. Like I said, if you don't assess first, all you're doing is throwing technology and other things at problems that may already exist, and they're going to continue to be problems. So the attractive thing was, we're not giving our customers a tool that they now have to use or set off or remember. We're giving them a tool that they can set up and it just goes. And they're constantly getting information, and they're getting it in what I'll call a ridiculously timely manner, because as things happen, there's nothing that's going to, for lack of a better word, fester over time. They're going to constantly be seeing what's going on with their customers' environment. On those things to make sure that they're taking care of it and they're keeping them safe. I just can't see why anybody would not want continuous vulnerability scanning at this point, because do you want to know what's happening once a quarter? Or do you want to know what's happening as it's happening, so you can go ahead and close those holes, address those vulnerabilities, and not find out about them later when there's an actual problem? So to us, as we're building on our platform, we wanted best-in-class solutions, and Nodeware was the best-in-class solution by far.
Good. So I have a question for Riaan, the third question that I got over LinkedIn. But before I get to that, it's interesting on your comment about continuous scanning. We have a lot of MSPs that have run some of the traditional vulnerability management tools, for a number of years, but they've been running them monthly, they've been running them quarterly, even on Sunday nights. And they provide that to a lot of their clients today. It's interesting, they're not necessarily replacing those products with Nodeware, but they're adding Nodeware for the clients that are demanding normal business hour scanning, immediate alerts. And in some cases, MSPs are now upcharging for the ability to provide continuous scans during normal business hours versus a snapshot on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis. We even have a school district that literally scans every device they have, and it takes them 4 months to get through their population of devices, right? So it's just a great example of how what was kind of once acceptable in the marketplace, even 2, 3, 4 years ago, now with the increase in compliance requirements and the frequency of cyber attacks, investors as well as downstream clients, clients of a law firm that used to accept you could just monitor vulnerability management on a weekly basis or monthly basis, is now saying, if you want my critical data, you got to make sure you're providing vulnerability management scanning and updates on an immediate basis. Otherwise, I'm not leaving my data with you. So it's an interesting way how the marketplace has transitioned very rapidly.
2 quick points, take 30 seconds based on what you said. Talked to an MSP yesterday. They're only doing external scans. That's what they sell. They sell external scans because they said doing internal vulnerability scans were too hard, took too long, and weren't effective. When we showed them our platform, including Nodeware yesterday, he was like, well, huh? I mean, literally he was blown away by the fact that he could set this up and it would do both in the same time that he's doing the external right now. And the last piece I'll say is, to your point, I'm always on the road. Nowadays, people are working from home. People are working from all over. I'm literally on the road constantly. So I guarantee if you set up a vulnerability scan once a week, once a month, once a quarter, you are going to miss me 9 out of 10 times. Literally, I don't care how often, you're going to miss me 9 out of 10 times. So the ability for it to reach out and scan me as soon as I log in is incredibly important, because I could be the problem. And you don't know that because I'm never online.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Brad,
and that actually, I'll just, no, I'm sorry, Stuart. Let me just add in. I think that, again, to tie in Riaan and Redstor, right? Where a user is, when they're connected, how they're connected, whatever. That's, again, it's kind of a 1-2, I'll call it 1-2-3 punch, but at least a 1-2 punch of, Nodeware and ThreatAdvice kind of protect on the front end. Riaan, you're protecting kind of the back end. If you are, God forbid, to get hacked or stalled or broken down or whatever, you've got protection on both sides of the equation. So that's why we, today's demo session was really about sort of the value of both ends. So Riaan, if you want to comment any further on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also the traditional user model for sitting in the office, having a file server and having one sort of place to protect is no longer valid. Meaning that your data is out there in the cloud. It's not necessarily where you think it is. Your users are storing data in multiple places, and you can control that to a certain extent. But what you can control is the data that is important to your organization, and making sure both from a front end, so your production system, making sure that it is scanned regularly for known threats and additional new threats, but also making sure that zero-day threats, when it comes to backup, they're protected as well. Because once you've got these things in your environment, and there is no 100%, and you need to fall back to something like backup, you not only have all of the data, which is sitting in multiple places across SaaS applications, 365, you have on-prem servers, desktops, etc., but that data is actually sanitized itself, that you're not restoring potentially malicious code back in. So you're 100% correct. While you're protecting sort of the front end, we're protecting the back end, making sure that that last line of defense, should, God forbid, anything happen, is as safe as protecting it on a daily basis. Because at the end of the day, the worst thing that could possibly happen, and we've seen this in other scenarios, where you restore a data copy from a week, 2 weeks ago, you think it's safe, but it actually contains exactly the same threat that you just realized you had in your organization. And that's really what we're trying to protect, because you're only going to be back in the same situation a week from now. And that is a combination of protecting both the front end and the back end. And that's really where Redstor gets to it. Make sure that we get all the data, no matter where it is, but also make sure that that data is safe for you to use at the time of recovery.
So Riaan, the third question that came in over LinkedIn, specifically addressed to you as an MSP, when do I use your service and when do I hire a SOC to provide your service plus a lot more?
Well, I mean, I like to use the analogy of going to the dentist, right? You ask the dentist, which teeth should I brush? And the dentist will answer you, you protect the ones you want to keep, right? So Redstor is really, or backup and disaster recovery companies are invaluable to everyone. When do they use us? We're channel focused, so we only work with MSPs. We don't work with end users. We provide the software, we provide the platform, so any MSP would potentially work with Redstor. When do they use our software? Well, obviously they're continually protecting the data, making sure that it is safe, making sure that we have usable and actionable insights from that data. So it's an ongoing process of using Redstor from a software perspective. And then obviously the key point there is at the time of recovery, being able to recover as fast as possible, and that's the instant data portion. I hope that's answered the question.
Yeah, well, they asked specifically about a SOC capability versus your backup and disaster recovery. Are they mutually exclusive? Is one part of the other? How does that, if you're an MSP and you're thinking about it, are they two different teeth that you should be brushing, or is there some overlap?
I guess we're the mouthwash in the situation, maybe. It's making sure that you use someone like Redstor. So it would typically be two offerings, making use of something like Redstor. So we're the vendor of the actual software. A SOC may make use of something like Redstor to make sure that the data is actually protected, but that's not a service that Redstor specifically offers.
Got it. So we also got asked a question about the other side of our business, IGI Cybersecurity Services. And yes, we provide those services, vCISO capability, penetration test, as well as assessments. We see it happen both ways, right? As MSPs that are looking for additional services that they don't have the headcount to provide, and they want to use our partner organization, our sister subsidiary, if you will, IGI Cybersecurity Services, to provide those services. But we also, interestingly enough, we've got MSPs that are asking for independent third-party risk assessments and independent third-party pen tests to be done, because they want to take the output of that information and then go back to their clients and say, here, this is what was done independently, and here's now, reasons why these are things that we suggest you do. So they're somewhat using the output as an independent program to do that. That was a question that specifically got asked, so I wanted to be able to address that. Maybe, we've got just a couple of minutes left, about 7 minutes before we get to kind of some closing remarks. Just some observations, maybe, for Matthew, with all the people you've been meeting around the country at the events you've been going to, kind of, what's driving the MSPs to get to MSSPs, or the flip side, what are they getting demanded to provide from end users that are getting more nervous about the number of cyber attacks, the potential for them to get hit, and the not having enough skills in their own organization to require maybe an MSP or MSSP that they didn't in the past. And then, Riaan, I'll ask you maybe the same question.
Sure. I mean, some of it that's driving it is that people are finally, especially in the SMB space, taking notice. They're not pushing back as much anymore. They're starting to get scared as to what's going on. And so they want to know that they're safe. They want to understand not that Russia's attacking and China's attacking. They want to understand that their environment is safe, because I think what a lot of MSPs are needing to do now is step up and provide full security services so the customer feels comfortable. And if they don't, statistics show they will go somewhere else where they do feel like they're providing full security services and they've got their business taken care of on a regular basis. So I think the transition is really about, one, huge opportunity. I have a statistic in one of my presentations that says by 2024, if I remember correctly, the MSP cybersecurity market's going to be worth about $90 billion is the projection. And what that basically boils down to is, if we agree that there's 40,000 MSPs in North America, and we agree that every single one of them is going to do cybersecurity, that's 2.5 million in additional AR that they're leaving on the table by not doing these things on an ongoing basis. So I really think a lot of them are getting smarter about the fact that they must offer these services, and they're looking for how do I do it? What do I offer? And they're looking for guidance on that, you know, because they admit they don't know everything, and they want us to help them put together the appropriate stacks, the appropriate tools to be able to go out and offer. And you know, I think making that easy for them is incredibly important, and they'll adopt it quicker and quicker. I'm assuming.
And I think the uniqueness there as well, Matthew, that I'm sure is starting to resonate more and more is sort of the end-to-end, right? The employers, the companies, the MSPs, customers, right, are realizing that they need to do more. They need to understand their environment better. But again, kind of back to the insurance play and compliance and audits, that they have to, you know, their boards are requiring them, or their suppliers, right? The supply chain requirements up the food chain to, you know, just everybody has to have that protection. And if they're not doing it right at the, you know, starting with the MSP, then that customer is going to go somewhere else that needs it. So
Exactly.
you guys provide a great end-to-end play there.
Yeah, if they can't get their insurance, then they are going to go somewhere else automatically. Or if there's compliance pieces they need to meet and their MSP can't help them get there, yeah, they're going to go over. Ryan, are you seeing the same thing out there?
Well, I mean, yeah, the security posture or the questions that MSPs are asking on behalf of their customers is becoming a lot more complex. Like you mentioned earlier, it's not just that these things are happening out there, they're seeing them around them, and they understand more than ever that they need to have a plan in place to protect their customers. I think for us, from a Redstor perspective, what customers are asking for, and our customers are MSPs, they want something simple, easy, secure, safe. They want to know that it's scalable and they're not going to have to hire 3 additional people just to manage backup. Something that's not some Frankenstein acquisition made, you know, multiple console backup provider. They want something that's simple to use, that is reliable, and that they can depend on in the time when they absolutely need it. Again, being that last line of defense that backup is, they need to know that when they need to, you know, press on your button, that you're going to be available. A lot of that is making sure that they understand what the actual threat landscape is right now, but also making sure that they're enabled to have those conversations with their customers as well. You talked about various attack vectors. You talked about various places where this data is and where it is vulnerable. Most importantly, we don't yet fully understand what remote working is going to do. If you think about where our data lives today versus where it lived just 2 years ago, how much of that sits inside 365 as an example? Making sure that that data in and of itself is protected easily without having to, you know, go through complex hardware acquisitions, software implementations, and additional points of failure that they introduce to a customer's environment is really important to our customers.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We've just got 2 minutes. Just quickly, the schedule of the upcoming events we have, if anybody's interested in attending any of these. Once again, cybersecurity thought leadership seminars around the U.S. government and some of the things that CISA is doing and other organizations to help, as well as sessions we're going to have around zero trust and some things around how continuous scanning is meeting the requirements of zero trust. Once again, we announced our partnership with Gradient this week, integrated into their billing system, as well as our promotional program with 7-figure MSP and ASCII. So if you're members of either one of those groups, please contact us as well. And with that, you know, why don't I give you to our guests. Thanks so much for your time. I'll give you 30 seconds for any last comments you want to make.
Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I think really, if you guys haven't heard of Redstor, reach out. We're here to assist our MSP community. Thank you, Stuart, Frank, and Matthew for the insights that you've provided today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, everybody, for having me on this. This has been fantastic. And the one thing I'll leave you with is, if you'd like to experience the ThreatAdvice platform, we do give you a 30-day trial, as well as your first customer up to 50 seats is free for a year. So reach out if you want more information. And otherwise, guys, it's been absolutely fantastic. This is one of the best panels I've been on.
Well, look, we really appreciate, you know, your partnership, your time, and everything that you're doing to, you know, to work with us to help improve the MSPs, to help improve the MSSPs, you know, to once again make it better for these small and mid-sized business leaders and owners, investors, board members, executives, employees that are just worried about the number of attacks coming their way and the increase on compliance requirements and what they need to do internally. So we appreciate you guys taking the time. We appreciate your partnership, and we're looking forward to do more of these in the future. Thanks, everybody. And to the attendees, we'll see you on our next session. Have a great weekend and a great holiday. Thank you.